This is an audio test. Audio test to the live stream. Checking audio to the live stream. Audio test, testing audio.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Long Beach Community College District Board of Trustees Audit Subcommittee meeting. And I'll go ahead and share my screen and show the agenda. Can you see the agenda on the screen? All right. This meeting is being conducted remotely. The public has been invited to view via the YouTube live stream. And I'll start off by calling the meeting to order. Item 1.1, we'll call the meeting to order at 11:05. And I'll go ahead and introduce the participants. First of all, we welcome our auditing firm, and this is the first year for auditors, CWDL, CPAs. We welcome the audit team, John Dominguez, partner, Stephen Curry, senior manager, Kyle Holt, audit manager. And from representing the district, we have the two members of the audit subcommittee for the Board of Trustees. That's Uduak Joe Intuk, president of the Board of Trustees, and Erlinda Chico, vice president of the Board of Trustees. Also with us are administrators, Dr. Mike Munoz, superintendent president, Dr. Chip West, vice president, business services. I'm John Thompson, director of fiscal services, and Conrado Durand, deputy director, accounting and finance. Item 1.2 is public comments for this meeting. The public was invited to make comments on the agenda items or other comments. Our senior executive assistant, Michelle Reese, reports that we have received no public comments. So we'll go right into item 1.3, review and discussion of the LBCC audit reports. And to take that part, I'll hand it over to CWDL audit partner, John Dominguez, and I'll step away from sharing my screen here and let John take over.
Sounds great. Thank you for the introduction, John. And I just wanted to acknowledge a couple of other team members that played a significant role in the audit. You mentioned Stephen Curry. He's the lead senior manager. Kyle Holtz was mentioned as well. We also had Viviana Jimenez played a significant role in assisting with a lot of our compliance testing, and Denora Gonzalez. So we have typically a team of 4 to 6 auditors working throughout the year in just looking at some of the information provided. I think there were, close to 1,000 documents that we went through. And so, certainly kudos to all of the staff throughout the district for their cooperation and their assistance in this effort to ultimately get us to this point where we've got drafts of the financial statements, of all the compliance reports and the opinions. And so I'll walk through those. I'll pause throughout for questions. I'll also keep an eye out if there are any hands they're utilized raising the hand via Zoom. I'll keep an eye out for that. But without further ado, I'll jump into our first main audit report. And before I just get firing away and rambling, can everyone see that, or should I expand that a little bit larger for viewing purposes? A little bigger, okay. Let's see, how does that look? Okay, perfect. So we're walking through the district financial statements and informational report. And we as auditors, kind of our big contribution to management's financials here are the 4 opinions that we've rendered throughout the report. And so as we take a look to page number 1 of the document is our first of those 4 opinions. And so right here is our independent auditor's report. We're rendering our opinion on the accuracy, the completeness of the financial statements, the related notes and disclosures. And you may notice, those that are familiar, there is a change in audit standards. So in the past, our opinion was on the last page. There's also a little bit more emphasis on the basis for opinion. So you can go here and see and read through there. But the important part and the key here is we've rendered an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion at our disposal. And what that means is that the financial information provided to us by management, that we subjected that information, to our audit procedures, we felt was accurate. It was complete. We also verified that what was reported to the state chancellor's office agreed absolutely to the information we went through and audited. So we're always checking for that. So a very good opinion, a clean opinion, the best at our disposal. And the only other item I wanted to just mention, we do have an emphasis of the matter here, simply just to draw the reader's attention to the fact that there was a new Governmental Accounting Standards Board statement that was required for implementation this year. There were changes to the lease standards, and so the district did a fantastic job in managing and fully implementing that to the exact specifications and requirements of the GASB. So I'll point that out briefly as we move through the notes, but starting off the first of four opinions with fantastic news, an unmodified opinion, continued excellence in financial reporting by the district as confirmed by our procedures. So good news there. Moving into the management's discussion and analysis, I won't go into a lot of detail other than just to mention that the district does a really good job of providing the reader of these financials with an overview, a background, and a high level as well as detailed level of information on kind of what encompasses this audit report, the accounting standards behind it, and then really the highlights and information. So as we just look, to a couple of sections here in the MD&A, what I wanted to point out is just the really, good information management has provided to the reader via the bullet points to kind of explain, kind of what has driven some of the changes that we see on these selected highlights, as well as the financial highlights, whether it be project detail, comparing the governmental funds and the various GASB statements that govern, kind of what we see here. Just a really good job. So again, kudos to management. I won't go through the detail of the MD&A because that is, again, kind of summarizing and helping the reader dissect the financial information that we have throughout the report. So with that, I'll jump into our core financial statements. Our first being our statement of net position. And so you can see each of these elements is what we go through as part of our substantive audit procedures. We're looking at controls, compliance, and then substantive are the key main areas. And by substantive, we're looking at each and every one of these numbers and verifying, through independent third-party sources, whether it be cash, through the county treasury, through banks, through various confirmations, all the way down the list, verifying these numbers, tying back to that original opinion. This is what we're saying was very accurate, was very complete, including the disclosures as required for each of these significant areas. And I did just want to point out, I mentioned that new GASB statement, GASB 87. You will see some new line items on this statement of net position as a direct result of that GASB implementation. So we have our lease receivable here. We also have some deferred inflows related to leases down here in the deferred inflows section. So again, this was just a minor change in the way that leases were reported, both in situations where the district is the lessee or lessor. Those are both captured and reflected in here as required by that standard. So very good information, very accurate information on the financials taken as a whole. With that, maybe I'll jump into our second key statement, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, going through all the operating activities of the district, as well as other sources of revenue, expenses, gains, or losses. You will see a reference to note 16, where we have a prior period adjustment that is solely related to the required implementation of that GASB standard. So as we brought those leases on, it's a retrospective implementation. And so just pointing that out. And then also noting that, our overall net change, the change in net position was an increase to the net position of 21.3 million, bringing the previously reported negative net position of 56 million down to 34 million. And just because this is our first year coming in, I'll briefly mention it's something we've talked for several years with all of our clients, that seeing a negative net position is very commonplace now throughout the state for the community college system, specifically because a lot of these recent GASBs have brought on significant debt that wasn't previously reported on the financials. The pensions is a good example. As you know, several years ago, those were not reported in the manner they are now. And so there's a lot of liabilities in their full extent that are going to be paid with future resources that aren't currently reflected on the statement of net position. So it's absolutely not a cause for concern. As we go through and analyze the fiscal stability and fiscal health of the district, we have zero concerns whatsoever, including the fact that there is that negative net position. So just wanted to mention that. Before I move into a couple of other key highlights, I'll just pause briefly. Are there any questions about information we've gone over, this kind of introduction to the first report? Seeing and hearing none, I'll continue moving on. We obviously get passionate about our audits, so feel free to stop me if there is anything. I can just be carrying on, but we'll do that. We'll move into our OPEB trust. I just wanted to point out that is one of the key components that we verify the investment and other activity related to the OPEB trust. A fantastic thing that we really like to see, district taking that obviously proactive action on that OPEB liability and OPEB future funding. So something we're certainly encouraged to see there. As far as the core financials, those were the highlights I wanted to point out. So with that, I'll move throughout the report into the notes to financial statements, beginning with the new note. Again, I don't want to belabor the point on GASB 87, but there were some significant changes. And so any reader, looking to glean a little bit more information on that new GASB 87 implementation, you could begin here, note 5 on the lease receivable and arrangements that just describes, again, in detail, some of the district spaces that are leases, including cellular leases. That's a very common one we're seeing. And these are some of the deferred inflows on those non-cancelable leases as they stand as of the balance sheet date. But again, just wanted to draw your attention. This is a new footnote, a new disclosure that the district has presented in accordance with GASB 87. OPEB summary, I just wanted to again bring your attention to the OPEB information. Again, this is coming strictly from the actuarial report. So one of the steps that we do is, obviously obtain the actuarial report, obtain, the summary of how they arrived at these numbers, but ultimately we're relying on those external actuaries to get, current and projected information on future healthcare cost trends, discount rate, earnings rate. All those things are all accumulated by the actuary and ultimately arriving at the net OPEB assets or liability there, as well as the deferred inflows and outflows. And we see that same thing with the pension summary. So that, again, has been a significant element, the CalSTRS and CalPERS pension programs. We did see some positive news on the pensions this year. In that they had exceeded expectations on some of their investment earnings. So those liabilities did go down from what were previously reported. We would expect maybe with current market conditions for that to maybe balance out or swing back the other way. But nonetheless was positive news in seeing some good movement on those liabilities from the systems as a whole. Again, looking at the unfunded status of both CalSTRS and CalPERS. And this is the district's proportionate share that we have reflected here. So,
John?
Yes.
I know this reporting our share of the pension liabilities is always a complicated area. Can you remind me, and like you mentioned, for the first time in many years, I think since we've been reporting that liability has gone down, and you said mainly because of the positive investments at the state pension level. That most of that pension information, there's kind of a year lag time on that, right? In what we're able to report. Is that correct?
You're exactly right, John. So all of these figures, again, are derived, much like OPEB, these pension figures are derived from the state's actuarial reports. And you're correct. Those are for this June 30th, 2022 financial audit. They're relying on financial data, all that information as of their reporting, which is 1 year behind. So they're using June 30th, 2021 figures and activity and rolling that forward with some estimates and projections. But you're exactly right. There is a 1 year lag essentially on the pension data. And that was by design so that the district like Long Beach wouldn't be held hostage and waiting for the state to complete all those actuarial reports, all their audit reports. If we had done that, we wouldn't be able to be here together presenting this. We'd still be waiting for that information for 22 to come in. So that's system wide that they're relying on that information. And you're exactly right. As I alluded to the fact that I think that might swing back in the other direction is just kind of knowing what we know about market conditions that have occurred from that point of their roll forward through till now. But yes, you're exactly right.
All right, thanks.
Excellent. So moving on throughout the report, I just wanted to point out a fantastic page that I think provides a lot of really good information. As you know, the fund information is presented. It's a key focus for budget. And so we often get asked, you're presenting this, total, the district as a whole. Well, what if I want to drill into detail at the fund level? And this is exactly where, we'd have a reader of the financials go to. This reconciliation of governmental funds to the statement of net position is really helpful to just see as of the June 30, 2022 date, ending fund balance for each of the major funds as reported on the 311 that goes to the state chancellor's office. As I mentioned, that's something that we audit and verify. Also included is the auxiliary fund that isn't reported on the 311. And then below that are all what we would refer to as conversion entries or GASB entries to arrive from the fund basis, modified accrual basis of accounting to the full accrual statement of net position. So it's all those long-term items in nature, the capital assets, the irrevocable trust, those deferred inflows and outflows from OPEBs, pensions, all the bonded debt, everything in here will help us reconcile from, again, the fund financials down to the net assets reported within that statement of net position. That was that first core financial statement that I brought up. So an excellent page, I think really helps tie a lot of information together. So page 87 for the readers is a great source of information. As I mentioned at the onset of this first presentation, we render 4 opinions throughout the report. We went over that first one. This is our second of 4. This is our independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance, also known as our yellow book opinion. And so essentially what we're reporting on here is if we had identified throughout the course of our audit any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses or combination of deficiencies that we felt was inadequate or had concerns over, we're required by governmental auditing standards to report those. The positive news is we did not identify those, which is consistent with prior audits that we found that the district's control system to be in place, to be functioning as intended, and to absolutely be adequate and in place. So we did not have any deviations from that, which was very, very positive news. The other 2 opinions, our third and our fourth, is our opinion on compliance. We render our opinion on federal compliance, as well as our opinion on state compliance. And as you're well aware, significant, detailed provisions that go into each one of those. I'll just briefly point out on our state compliance opinion, the state chancellor's office, has the contracted district audit manual that we follow with very, very specific elements that we're required to go through. For us, compliance is black and white. There's not a gray area, and we felt the district was in full compliance with all requirements of both federal and state regulations as applicable to our audit. So very, very good opinions. In kind of concluding this district report, just come here to, our audit summary. This would be our schedule of audit findings and question costs. And so here we indicate that there were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies identified, the unmodified report, and also, had we identified any concerns over federal awards here in the middle of the page or state awards at the bottom, those would be identified. So we did not have findings, very, very good results, and also consistent with a prior year. One of the things, had there been concerns or findings in prior year, we would review those to determine current status. But as you know, there were not. So last year, no findings reported, consistent again with this year. So kudos to the district and to management for continuing, that process of very positive results and good audits. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on the district audit report before moving into our final two bond reports. Okay, great. We'll move into the first of our bond reports, and I'll expand this a bit, just knowing it's a little small. This is the Prop 39 general obligation bonds. As you know, we're looking at the conclusion, the wind down of Measure E, and obviously the current status of Measure LB. And this is as of the fiscal year June 30th, 2022, just like we saw in the district report. This being the financial audit, we'll kind of jump right into the details of the balance sheet. So as I mentioned, Measure E winding down, not a lot of significant activity. So our main focus there was just to, kind of see that close out as it occurs in future periods, and that any small interest that was still, allocated or relevant, does go there.
Excuse me, John.
Yes.
Just to clarify, and I think the board's aware of this, but Measure E is on hold. I think we have about 150 million authorization that's still available, but it's just on hold due to the repayment of the previous bonds. The taxpayers are repaying previous bonds, and so we have accessibility, and we always do this. We access one bond measure or the other, and so E is just temporarily on hold, and we're using the issuances from Measure LB for the next 6 years or so.
Gotcha. Exactly right. Yeah. And so, as I mentioned, that'll stay on here in Measure E until such a time that you do those, future issuances and ultimately wind that program down. Statutorily, because there are funds out there, this will continue to be monitored, as required under, Prop 39 compliance regulations. But clearly the main focus for this period was, the funds issued under Measure LB. And so obviously a significant amount from the issuance, we're verifying, the cash in the county treasury. As we look at the activity, obviously we're looking to see that the interest earned on those funds, obviously stays with Measure LB, stays with the bonds, and we did ultimately see that. So you see the interest and investment income. That's one of the big keys that we look at. The kind of average daily, monthly, daily balances and that interest allocation, and then all the way through the current expenditures, the capital outlay clearly being a significant component, but the salary and benefits as well. We do monitor and analyze that to ensure that's completely allowable under Prop 39. And our conclusion was that it very much was acceptable and allowable use of all expenditures that we tested. We'll look at that in our second report, but just wanted to point out kind of the information here. One of the other items, and we do look at the commitments under various capital expenditure purchase agreements, and so we just did identify that there was the 13.6 million funded through the bonds that is under current commitment, and obviously that will continue to grow with the significant source of the cash that was issued. And then finally, in this report, just wanted to point out, again, that yellow book opinion that I mentioned in the district report, we're required by government audit standards to do the same. If we, felt there were control issues or control concerns over the district's ability to manage, to financially report the bond activity, that would be presented, but consistent with prior reports, we did not identify that. We felt, very strong controls, very detailed financial analysis over the bond fund. So very, very good results there on the financial portion of the bonds. And with that, I will go into our performance audit report. So as you know, this is a requirement under Prop 39. The district has, gone through each year. And so we're rendering, that independent auditor's report on performance. And we do identify, this is our scope, what we did, what we conducted under government audit standards. And that ultimately the conclusion was, our test indicated the district expended Measure E, minimal amount obviously left, but Measure LB was the primary focus for specific projects developed, by the board, approved by the voters, and ultimately that it's in accordance with Prop 39 and in accordance with the ballot language that went out. That's one of the big things we look at to see, has the district delivered on, what the voters authorized. And our conclusion was in the performance report that yes, that absolutely is the case for the performance audit. So a good opinion, good result there. And then just going into some of the background information just describes to the reader, a bit about what the voters approved, both under Measure E and under Measure LB, indicating the amount, kind of some of the key components from the ballot language that, each of those bonds would produce, and then going into the objectives, our scope of the audit, and then ultimately our kind of our methodology as we went through. But just noting here, we tested just under 50% of the non-salary expenditures through our testing. And then, as I mentioned, we did test that full balance of the salary and benefits were included in our analysis and in our testing, going through the payroll activity, job descriptions. So just a little bit of information and background. And then again, that same conclusion, we felt all expenses, both on salary and benefit and non-salary construction related amounts, were absolutely allowable and in accordance with Prop 39 and the ballot language. So very, very good results. With that, that's kind of the overview I had wanted to cover. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the procedures, our results, or anything related to these audits and the positive results we have for this period ended June 30th of 2022.
All right. I think we're good, John, and we really appreciate the work that you guys do and put into the audit. And I thank everyone at the district that does a lot of work throughout the year to get these results. We really appreciate that. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll just read from the last part of the agenda. In accordance with Administrative Procedure 6400, Audit Subcommittee of the Board will meet with the district's independent auditors and other staff to review and discuss draft copies of the district's annual audit, which of course we've done. The Audit Subcommittee does not have the authority or power to act on behalf of the board. The final audit report will be taken to the regular Board of Trustee meeting on December 14th, 2022 for review and acceptance. And John, we're scheduled to have you present roughly 15 minutes or so near the start of our meeting. There are other presentations, and we also have swearing in of newly elected board members, which we congratulate all our successfully elected board members. But and I know you're prepared to do that at the December 14th meeting.
Yeah, look forward to seeing everyone. I'll be there in person on the 14th.
Okay, anything else before we adjourn the meeting from anyone?
Hey, this is President Intuck. Just want to say thanks to you, to the staff and our auditors for the good work. We had the previous meeting before this meeting, and it's good to see it all together. And we look forward to adopting the final audit at our next regular board meeting. But just wanted to say thank you for our staff and everyone who helped put this together.
Well, thank you, Board President Intuck. We appreciate that. And as always, we appreciate yours and the other trustees' guidance and leadership throughout the year. So unless there's any other comments, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. And thanks again, everyone, for the participation. And we will see the audit report at the December 14th meeting. But for this meeting at 11:36, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.